Errol Spence's trainer says that Terence Crawford basically hurt himself in future negotiations with Errol Spence, turning in low pay-per-view numbers with BLK Prime and the David Avanesian fight. That's what I want to talk about in this video. Let's talk about it. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Errol Spence trainer Derrick James, he did an interview with Brian Custer on The Last Stand, and he talks about the disappointment initially when Crawford made a beeline and, AWOL, pulled out, decided he was fighting on a different network, different platform, BLK Prime, against David Avanesian. Derrick James says, quote, "It was very upsetting, but at the same time, you got to brush it off and keep moving. Something you hoped for and wanted, but it's okay." Then he goes on to say, to build a fight is what makes a fight. So what happens is that when you see Terence Crawford take this other fight with David Avanesian and not build a fight, he gets what he wants, but the promoter as a whole don't get what they want. You don't put up millions of dollars to lose millions of dollars. Press conference, all accesses, everything to build a fight. When you see Terence Crawford's uneducated perspective for what he thought boxing is, he got the fight with David Avanesian, but he was the only winner, not the promoter. If you were to go into negotiations now with those numbers, you have no leg to stand on. In fact, yesterday's price is not today's price. Yesterday was an assumption, but today is facts. Dang. Derrick James is cooking with grease. He says you can't come up in my face with this and that if that's what you're doing in terms of your pay-per-view numbers, lack thereof, not doing good numbers. It was something unnecessary for him to find out. That's what you are now. So he's saying he's defined by these weak pay-per-view numbers. I'm going to reference who you are. You can't hide behind the machine at ESPN and Bob Arum. Now Terence Crawford by himself. It may not happen, Spence versus Crawford, because his perspective of who he is something totally different from those low pay-per-view numbers. What are my thoughts? God dang, I'm good. Woo, I make boxing look good. Listen, the great Ego Stradamus strikes again. I mean, this is literally verbatim. Derrick James is saying exactly what I've told you on my channel. People get mad, people kick, fight, and scream and leave insulting comments. I don't care about none of that. I'm here to do my job. Like Pacquiao said, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. And, people can take it for what it is. They don't have to. I don't really care about that extra stuff. The bottom line is Terence Crawford is a great fighter, but Derrick James is telling you what I've been telling you. The stuff is not adding up. People were wondering why Boxing Ego was quote unquote harsh on Terence Crawford's decision to leave negotiations with Errol Spence and PBC and do even a one fight deal with BLK Prime or anybody else outside of PBC. Because I told you from the beginning, even if he made the same move, people wouldn't have preferred it. But why not make the same move with PBC? For so long, fans have been like, Crawford needs to be with PBC. They have the best names and contemporaries on their network fighting that he could fight at 147 and 154. Everybody and their mama's been saying this. Crawford continues to make weird moves, questionable decisions, bad business bud, and he's free to make, it's America. We live in America, Jack. You can make whatever decision that you want. That's fine. I'm with that. But guess what? With that comes, I can make whatever content in rebuttal that I want, and it doesn't make sense to me. And Derrick James is literally saying the same thing that I said. You can feel whatever you want about yourself. You could say I'm worth $20 billion. Next, you got to find someone who's willing to do it. Now, one thing I like that Derrick James said, which is also my sentiments, is he said that, okay, let's say he got the 10 million, which I don't know if that's true. I don't really care. If it's true, good on him. If it's not, why lie? But whatever. Let's say it's true. Derrick James said something dope. He said, that worked out for you. It didn't work out for the people. You know, with the promotion, you got to do all accesses, 24/7s, build up the fight, and the goal is to make money. And this is exactly what I said, educating all the idiots and the Bud Buddies on my channel about why this was a bad move, because it's deeper than just, oh, let Bud get his money. That's cool. Bud can get his money, but the fight we all want to see is Errol Spence Jr. versus Bud Crawford. And with making this move, this could push Bud Crawford, who, in my opinion, has already showed shades of delusion in terms of negotiating and worth based on his natural stats and numbers. This could push us farther from that. That's why you hear Derrick James is saying what he's saying. He said, you know, I don't know if it happens because those numbers don't add up. This is who you are. This is exactly what the great Ego Stradamus forecasted. At the end of the day, it's going to take Terence Crawford to come to reality. You know, maybe he does. Hopefully he does. You know, you got the David Avanesian, whatever purse you got a tune up. So if he comes back to the table realistically, then yeah, it can happen. But if he got 10 million, let's just use that number. And let's say he got 10 million. And then now he's like, y'all got to give me 20 million, double that to fight Errol, plus pay-per-views and show me the transcripts and transparency. You know, it may not happen because how can you come to the table with all these demands? You're not putting up the money. You have no network. You really have nowhere to turn. Like, even let's say you go back to BLK Prime. Okay, to fight who? Virgil Ortiz is fighting Stanionis. That's a great fight on a Golden Boy card. Jerron Boots Ennis is fighting January 7th, and then he's gonna have to take some time to rest. Plus, does Crawford want to, you know, a champion? Does he want to fight a high risk person like Jerron Boots Ennis? Conor Benn is up in the air with the failed drug test. So if you don't fight a PBC guy, who are you going to fight on BLK Prime? That's not in contract. Errol Spence already told Ellie on ES News, he says, if I can't get to Crawford, he ain't getting Jermell. So, and Jermell's hurt anyway. So it's like, you guys do the math. I'm laying everything out for you. Everything I said is perfect. I shook up the world. It makes no sense. Crawford has literally no options outside of PBC, or very few, without stretching. I'm not talking about, like, who is he going to go up to 160? 160 is not a popping division right now anyway. And then who would you fight? Jermall Charlo, another Al Heyman advised PBC guy who's been out over 400 days. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we'll see. 35-year-old Crawford, he can keep making these decisions, but we'll see how it gets him. You know, you look at Rashidi Ellis, left Golden Boy. Where'd he go? PBC. Demetrius Andrade tried the thing with Eddie Hearn, didn't become a star, didn't get no good fights. Where is he right now on January 7th? Oh yeah, that's right. Gervonta Tank Davis undercard, you know, working with Al Heyman, which is what people said for Andrade. It's the same thing people said for Crawford. Crawford's the only one that hasn't got the menu. Chech.